Hi everyone. First of all, thank you for your presence here and welcome to our second edition of Viseu Tech Talk. So, get the right asset with AWS CloudFront and Lambda at Edge. So, my name is Rui Silva. I'm a full stack software engineer at XGeeks for the past 2 years. And also, I'm an open source developer on my free time. You can check this QR code and we'll see my social media links and also XGeeks one. Okay. This is the agenda for today. First of all, we will see the problem. Then I will explain to you what is AWS CloudFront, which events CloudFront can trigger, and at the end we will talk about money. That's important, right? So, have you ever felt that you were downloading the entire internet just to display an image? For example, remember when you were using the Internet Explorer and your images were just loading by chunks? That's a pain. Have you ever resized your images just to decrease their size and the resolution to be able to be faster, loading faster on your applications? Here is where AWS CloudFront enters. AWS CloudFront is an AWS service. It's a CDN, a cloud deliver network, and it provides global availability. This means that when your user tries to request an asset, the request will reach the closest server to his location. Then it also provides scalability, speed, security. It's less expensive, and customization. These two last topics we will see in the next slides. Sorry about this architecture thing. This is boring, right? But just for to understand the context of this flow of the request, okay? When the user requests your application, the application will ask to CloudFront to generate an URL with a signature. You can define a time to live for that signature. This means that the URL generated, the generated URL, it will only be valid for the time you set. Then the application will return to the user the URL, and the user will be redirected. Once the request reaches CloudFront, the CloudFront will ask the origin, in this case the S3 bucket, by the asset that the user asks for. So, image resizing. Why you need image resizing? Have you ever worked with a client that had a content team and they were uploading a lot of content and a lot of images with a huge resolution and a huge size that you couldn't optimize for your application? Would you create some kind of script to run over and over for that images just to resize them, and it's kind of automatic process? So, and what resolutions you will need to just resize your images? You don't know from the beginning, right? So that's my problem. Image resizing, I had a problem with big resolution content, huge sizes, and the biggest one is I was developing a mobile application. And you need to be careful with data consumption, right? Battery also. So my solution is to tune my CDN, CloudFront plus Lambda at Edge. A Lambda is a serverless computing service, but these Lambdas are special. They run at Edge. It means that they are replicated to all origins from AWS. this means also the CDN is replicated by all regions, and your code will also be executed there. So, CloudFront events. CloudFront currently has 4 events where you can, where it can trigger your lambdas. You can attach a lambda to each event that it can trigger, but we will focus on just 2. Okay. We will focus on these 2, the viewer request and the origin response. So, another flow, okay? So, first of all, the user requests our application, like I said, for a specific asset with a specific argument. You can pass whatever arguments you need, in this case, the width of the image, and then the application will return a CloudFront URL with the same asset, with the same specific argument, and also the signature that I talked before. Then, the user requests CloudFront, and here is where the viewer request event is triggered. Then your Lambda will start running, and what this Lambda do? This Lambda will parse the request URI. Then it will be, you can customize your execution as you want. That's the powerful thing. And I'm parsing the URL to slash argument, in this argument value, in this case 300, the width of the image, slash the name of the image. Then CloudFront will ask for this path on the S3 bucket. Then the S3 bucket will respond to my sorry about that, to my origin response Lambda, okay? This Lambda will be triggered, and what it does is also the S3 bucket will respond to my origin response Lambda, and it will say, oh, I found the image, so you can return it to the user. But if not, the origin response will try to get the original image without any transformation. It will transform it, okay? It will resize it. It will upload it to the S3 bucket and return it to the user. This way, the next time your user requests the same image with the same transformation, the image already exists. You won't pay any time consumption for your Lambda, and yeah, it's less expensive, right? But the image resizing, it's not the only feature you can do with your Lambda. The Lambdas, you can do this thing with CloudFront functions, but CloudFront functions are more limited. It only accepts JavaScript and without any dependencies. So Lambdas are needed, and you can use any language that you want. You can use Go, Java, Python, Node. I chose Python, of course. So the sky is not the limit, it's your imagination, right? You can do blur, you can do black and white, you can do sepia, whatever. Then, let's talk about important things, right? Money. So, CloudFront has a free tier. Everyone likes free stuff, right? That's why you are here. There's beer and snacks and pizza. So CloudFront free tier, for me, it's very good. You have, for example, a terabyte of data transfer for a month. Also, 10 million requests. There are no limitations. You have all features available, and there's free SSL certificates. At Lambda, you pay by use. You pay by gigabyte of used by second. For example, my Lambda was using 128 of memory, and I pay that. But sadly, there is no free tier. But you can check that QR code to check the official documentation about the pricing. There is the pricing of CloudFront and the Lambda. Alternatives. There are always alternatives, right? There is alternatives for another cloud providers like Azure, GCP, but it's fair to compare with another CDNs, right? Cloudflare, it's a well-known company, but the image resizing feature is only available for pro and business plans. And you can check, you need to pay, besides the pro and the business plans, you need to pay more about the images stored, the image delivered. You are limited to the size of the image and videos also. And Cloudinary. Cloudinary is a powerful tool to use for transformation of videos and images. It has a free plan, but you also have a lot of limitations. One common thing about these products is that both products don't store those transformed images. It only caches them. It means that when this cache ends, you need to transform these images again, and then you will pay for it. Okay, my solution stores it, and you don't do anything more, right? And that's it, guys. Thank you. Any question?
So thank you for your presentation. It was a very cool idea, and I'm planning to implement something similar. Therefore, I would like further clarification. So basically, you are using the lambdas as a middleware for image transformation, right? And you transform the image, and then you just catch it, correct?
Sorry. Actually, I use the official SDK for the S3 bucket, and actually, I get the original image, I transform it with something. I used Pillow for Python, and then I upload the image to the to S3 bucket and return it to the user. So, the cache feature. It's something that CloudFront will do for you. Okay, you are not doing that. You are just storing the image on the S3 bucket and return it. CloudFront will do the rest for you.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so I think I understood that wrongly from your presentation. The second thing is, why do you need like dynamic size request? Because that basically forces to pre-process that same image countless times, whereas you could basically just select a reasonable size for an image in a way that doesn't impact loading speed and size, and just transform it on upload once, and then you just have to read it, right? So this is more like a question out of curiosity, why there is the need on that specific use case for selecting a dynamic size and then having to, let's say for the same image, recalculate a number of times instead of just once.
That's actually a good question. I did this because nowadays you have multiple screens. It's not just 800 per 600 anymore, right? And you have fully capable smartphones with big screens, and it's more dynamic this way because you can do like choose a multiple. For example, doing an application for Android or iOS, normally you have two types of image: the 2x and 1x image. If you select the width, comparing with the actual device that is running your application, you can set a width that is useful for it, and then set the request with it, okay? And you can say, yeah, but there are multiple resolutions of screens, and I have my pixels, and you have yours, and both requests will be different. The idea is to your application will select a set of resolutions that must be requested, right? Instead of each device defines its own resolution, and you'll have multiple images, and you'll pay more and more and more, right? I think that explains. Okay. Yeah. Actually, I don't know, but it's more that's more precise, right? You'll set, for example, instead of, uh, and that's it. Your client will do the job. It's not you, not your content team, because you will not prepare the images prior their utilization, right? You probably, I say, let's transform this image for 20 sizes, but how many sizes will you use from the beginning, right? And we will pay that 20 sizes from the beginning. With this solution, we'll pay for those sizes when the client uses. Make sense to you?
Thank you for your presentation, first of all. I have a question regarding one of the last questions you answered. I really understand this makes sense, but I'm wondering, because you mentioned, for example, you just mentioned the examples for mobile apps when we export the icons and the assets with different resolutions. And I think that makes sense when they are exported, for example, in a lossless resizing, using a lossless resizing format like SVGs or something like that. So I really understand why that is done that way in mobile apps, and I also believe in web apps it also makes sense. But I'm just wondering if the compression we are talking here is the compression or resizing is also a lossless compression. Otherwise, I think the purpose of resizing the image will be lost at the end. Since I think it would be probably worthy. I want to know your opinion, but I think probably it would be worthy and less expensive at the end of the day to use like SVG formats. Of course, if we are talking about pictures, it's pictures, photographs, photos is different. So I'm just my question to you is to understand if you see this value for all kind of images or just for specific formats.
Nice question. SVG file, it's that file that you can have a small one and increase it, and you'll no notice any change because it's an SVG. This type of feature is just to content, where you have, imagine, a list of products, and for web they have a resolution, and for mobile you don't need it. Okay, this is just for PNGs, JPEGs, and whatever. Okay, but that loss that you are worried about, you have all the entire responsibility of your code. Okay, you can do whatever you want on that code. You can maintain the ratio. We can just scratch it. You can crop it. You can do whatever you want. It's full customization. Okay. Anyone?
Yeah, it's just a simple question, Rui. So you are kind of reprocessing the image and create smaller files, right? But let's say you are kind of create an image you to transform a big image into a small one, for example, 300 pixels by something, no matter what. And then longer in time, you decide that for some reason you don't need anymore the 300 pixels image. Now you need a 400 400 pixels image, right? But then you already have stored the 300 on the S3, right? Do you do anything to delete the old image, or do you do any kind of stuff to kind of purge the old image that you don't need anymore?
Okay. Basically, you are telling me. Imagine you have Contentful CMS, right? And you are just creating your articles or your pages, and then you upload it to the cloud. This way, imagine you have behind Contentful, you have S3 buckets. Probably some image will be lost. Okay, you need to have control over that, and there is no this kind of stuff. Don't make tracking of what I was requesting before and then what is the new one. I think that's the part of your team to measure. Okay, we don't need the 300 more, the 300 pixel image more. Let's delete it because it will take costs on our account. Okay.
Hello, thanks for the presentation. I used Lambdas before, and whenever I faced the issue that the integration time was a lot, I had to configure provision concurrency. I never used Lambdas at the edge. Do they have small response times, or do you have also to configure provision concurrency if you want to have even smaller response times?
I can't answer that with 100% certain. I think the only thing that I configured here was the region of it. For example, you have your infrastructure on the Frankfurt region. Okay, to create these lambdas, you need to create them on another region. It's the global one. Okay, and the only thing that I tried to configure it's the memory used and the timeout execution. Okay, and also you have a kind of, I don't know the name of it on it for the lambdas, but I think it's layers, where it caches your dependencies. The Lambda at edge has that limitation. You cannot do layers for that. Okay. For your execution, I don't know if you can limit or configure the time of the configuration. I think it's only the memory and the timeout. Yeah, I don't think so, because like I said, it's on the edge and it tries to be a smaller and a more precise execution. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. Probably the first time the user requests an image with that specific properties, it will take some time because it's transforming the image, but that's normal. But when the user is the image is already transformed and already on the S3 bucket, it will be fast because it will be a normal process, and because the lambdas will just bypass your request because the image already exists. That's why probably the execution and the delivery of your asset will be more faster than Cloudflare and Cloudinary, because they don't store, they just cache. Okay. Okay.
Not related to infrastructure, but regarding the use case that where you use that, do you know any kind of API that you can get on the app side or website that you can detect, for example, slow networks, where you can kind of request a smaller image if your network is slow?
Probably you can trace, for example, on this, and this related with the topic before, from the presentation before. By doing some observability, you can do tracing with your application and the AWS side, because CloudFront Lambdas run on AWS side, right? And on AWS side, you have CloudWatch that do CloudWatch does the metrics, the tracing, and also it can correlate with your user requests, and you can check, for example, let's say Datadog. You can correlate the data and tracing, and also it catches the request from your user when it tries to get the asset, and correlates with the execution from the AWS. Okay, and you can see if it's slowing down your application on that URL, for example. Make sense? Yeah, you can do it. So that's it.
Any more questions? No? Thank you, Rui, for your amazing presentation. So, round of applause, please. Yeah, so the pizzas are a little bit delayed, so but don't worry, they are coming. I want to thank all of you to be here today. I want to thank our speakers. Ricardo is not here anymore, but thank you, Ricardo. Thank you, Serra. Thank you to the team that make this possible. And I want to challenge you if you want to collaborate with us in a more depth way. Please feel free to reach me. Some of you already know me. I already spoke with some of you in LinkedIn, email, WhatsApp. So if not, just approach me during our network session. I will be here until the end. So just approach me and maybe you can be one of our next speakers in our third edition of Viseu Tech Talks. So thank you.